Hello, everybody, and welcome to the REVA Electrifying News segment for, what are we, the 11th of, no, it's the 14th of November, 2022. With me, as always, we have Mr. Ian Graham joining us from the downtown studio. How are you today, sir?
Keeping well, not liking the cold, but oh well, it's what it is. It's Canada.
Yep, we're still north. That's just something we're gonna have to live with, I guess. It's the way it is. But as I was saying to Eric before we started, we certainly got a great early November and a great October. So that weather was fantastic and a little bit different than what we usually expect for those months. So that's a plus.
Yeah.
Speaking of Eric, we have Mr. Eric Stevens joining us from the Listable area. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, Mark. Trying to keep warm.
Yep, got to learn the sweater stuff all over again.
Yeah.
It's too used to the short sleeves and summer-ish weather. But yeah, I just put the snow tires on 2 of the 3 vehicles, so it's definitely getting prepared for that white stuff, which is coming.
So you jinxed us.
Actually, it's an insurance policy. If I put on my snows, that means it won't snow. So you guys can rejoice in that.
Yeah. I got snow tires on one of my cars too. So.
Very good. Very good. Well, Ian's going to start up the presentation, and let's get to our electrifying news for November.
All right. Well, first off, I am very envious of this person. It's a gentleman named Petro Canada. He lives in between Montreal and Quebec City. And I say that I'm envious because my parents drove to Puerto Vallarta from north of Manitoulin Island for 25 years to, stay down there for 5-6 months of the year. And anyways, Patrick, he has done this trip. And this is the layout of his trip. Basically, 9,600 kilometers that he did. Cost him $300 in charging, which is incredible for this type of trip. So he did this trip and basically left his wife and 3 kids behind. They have since flown to Puerto Vallarta this past week to meet with him. But he stopped in different places, Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and of course then through Mexico. And the interesting thing about Patrick, he did this all in an Ioniq 5. And Patrick has a company. You can see this is a kind of a cool picture on the top. And it's a specific camera that he's got. And it's a virtual reality camera. It basically records everything 3-dimensionally around, including sound. And he's got some incredible footage. And he's doing this to eventually show for students in schools and also for seniors as well. They can go put on the 3D goggles and they can actually look around the Grand Canyon here and see everything that this camera has captured. So I've been chatting back and forth with Patrick, and anyways, he took the trip one way and spent 3 weeks filming in national parks. So it took a month for him to do this actual trip overall on this. I asked him what the biggest challenge in Mexico was, because in Canada and US we know that we don't really have quite the same issues in terms of the charging network. It's grown quite a bit. So the biggest challenge in Mexico was actually the lack of fast chargers, so the level 3. Now Tesla, he said, no problems. He seemed to find that a lot more, but the CCS, that's still kind of growing. But I wasn't surprised when he said that most of the times he found he was recharging at hotels and also certain car dealerships in major cities. So there's a video of him actually at one point at a Nissan dealership charging up that way as well. And the best part is they're free. I asked him about, because I hear this all the time, oh, Mexico, isn't it kind of dangerous? And interesting enough, if there's a Facebook group called On the Road to Mexico, and they talk about traveling within Mexico, and the same thing comes up. the problem isn't actually on the roads with the regular roads, because they're actually really nice. They're pretty much the same as what we got here. They found the police at the municipal level to be the most difficult issue. And he had a couple incidents with them about 2 years ago. This one, he had no problems, but the federal police and the army, no issues whatsoever. The one thing he really did find, though, that he brought up was he found that the people of Mexico, of course, they're very welcoming. I've known that as well. And they recognized that his car was different and an electric. And he actually had a lot of questions from the Mexican people and the places that he stopped at. And he said they discussed a lot of it with him. They were really keen and interested in a lot of this stuff. And he said, overall, the trip was amazing. He caught some amazing images. It's amazing to see the different landscapes from Utah to Arizona to Mexico. And the one thing he said, he originally thought he could do the trip in an F-150, and he's like, no, I'm going to try it in the Ioniq 5. And 9,300 kilometers was around $300. And he says, he feels like he could go even further south than Puerto Vallarta. The way the network is growing. So it's really cool, really neat to see. And like I said, I'm envious that he's gone and done this, because I've been wanting to consider it with my Model 3 and kind of follow the same route that my parents took. And you know what? I think this is awesome. He did this. I wish him well when he returns. Hopefully it'll be after the snow, because we are still only in November. But it was interesting, just, this gentleman came up in Canadian Electric Vehicle group on Facebook, and I reached out to him, and he was kind enough to chat.
Very cool. So it's interesting that that he had that much success in Mexico, although, as you mentioned, stopping at dealerships and hotels. Obviously, there is a difference so far in the Mexican charging infrastructure, but it's good to see it's starting to move along.
Yeah. Now, if you look at the map that he went through, and of course he's on the west coast of Mexico. If you actually were in Texas and crossed the Laredo border, from Laredo to Puerto Vallarta, that is actually full of Tesla superchargers. In fact, I swear that Tesla knew when Quebec and Ontario had the $14,000 rebate, that they're like, ooh, snowbirds. And so they did the same route that snowbirds would take, but electrified it. And the West Coast, funny enough, from California down is still not a lot of the superchargers and CCS. It's coming slowly, but it's not built up quite the same way as through the middle of Mexico. Interesting.
This is definitely a dream trip. I would love to do something similar sometime as well too. It's a great trip. And yeah, I'm not surprised you get a lot of questions about electric cars in Mexico. Even when I travel down to Mexico for work and stuff like that, I get tons of questions from coworkers and stuff as well too. I mean, for them, gas is also very expensive for them. They only pay slightly less than we do right now for gasoline, at least in Mexico City. And for many people in Mexico, their disposable income is, much less than ours. So that's certainly showing up on a lot of people's radar there as well too.
Yeah. So
I like Ian's comment on the trip that he drove this and his family got on a plane and they met him there. So obviously not as adventurous as Patrick, some people.
Yeah. The wife and 3 kids, well, actually, maybe Patrick was like, I'm going to do this solo just to make sure it works out okay. And meanwhile, the wife and 3 kids, if he had some issues, it's like, you got a few more people speaking out then about this trip, where I'll just do it on my own. Yeah. All right. So there you go. Moving along here. This is really cool to see. In fact, my neighbor next door, who works for a local solar company, he started telling me, he said, oh, there's a new law in France and it requires that. And I said, solar panels in parking lots. He's like, yeah, how'd you know? And I'm like, because Mark's going to talk to us about this.
Yeah, this happened just last week. The French Senate has approved a new bill that is requiring that parking lots that have at least 80 spaces and above, they must be covered now by solar panels. And they've got about a 5-year term to comply with this. So those who are building new infrastructure, maybe in new apartment buildings, shopping malls, places like that, that have, a number of different spaces, in this case, 80 or above, are now having to plan for a solar installation for that will be able to generate electricity for that development. So yes, there's an extra cost in putting solar panels over a parking lot, but the plus is that it's going to generate electricity for the development. And another bonus is that the cars that park below it will stay cool in the summer and somewhat protected from rain and snowfall in the winter. So this is great. We've seen this, of course, in Waterloo, where we live. There's the Evolve 1 building, and recently another building up in the University of Waterloo Business Park has added a solar roof over a parking lot. Again, same company that did the Evolve 1. And of course, the Evolve 2 building, which has not started construction, but they're planning on covering their parking lot as well. So this, of course, is a little bit different, that this is a bill that's requiring it. And France is doing this because they want to up the amount of renewable energy that they're collecting as a country overall. And I think this is a great place to do it. It's kind of passive. It will bring in that extra electricity, and it won't use up valuable farmland. It's just going to use a parking lot. So I think this is a big plus, and I would hope that Canada could move towards something like this. Maybe it doesn't have to be as mandated as much. Maybe we can incent developments to add this. There could be other ways of doing this, but hats off to France. This is a great idea, and I think it's going to benefit them for a long time going forward.
Yeah, I agree absolutely, Mark. I mean, I think this is a great idea. It's amazing when you're flying into Pearson Airport and you look outside, and the sea of asphalts you see from all the places in the parking lots that are in the area, and you just sit there and think, man, if this was covered in solar, how much power would we be generating? But not only that, but how much is this contributing to things like heat island effect and stuff like that as well too, where the solar is just heating up the asphalt and it's just heating the environment in that area as well too, which has sort of a microclimate effect in those regions as well. So I mean, and the interesting part is, the main reason why a lot of companies don't do this is simply because of upfront cost. Most of these solar panels will have an ROI. They do have a payback. So from an economic standpoint, there's some upfront capital cost for that, but there's a payback. So
yeah, these panels are going to last up to 20 years. So yeah, there's definitely an ROI that you'll be able to start recouping and generating money by the time that you're 8 or 9 years into the operation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you can incorporate things like electric vehicle charging and maybe even make a little bit of money off that too. So
yeah. The neighbor, excuse me, the neighbor also had mentioned to me, Eric, like you said, about when you see all the parking lots and everything in Canada, they did figure out that if they took the majority of mainstream parking lots, like you mentioned, like say malls and that, we could literally power 20% of Canada just from that alone. And that's, not including our homes and say even industrial rooftops. This is just parking lots. Mm-hmm. So again, Canada, there's another opportunity for us to get involved with something like this. And, I love the fact that France, basically, they're looking also, I think, to kind of get away from the nuclear aspect as well, and to try and do more with the renewables. It's amazing when you look at 11 gigawatts, which is equivalent of 10 nuclear reactors on this. So it'll be, the law aspect of kind of demanding it. They did say as well that, of course, if there's a cost prohibitive aspect or other things, they will take those into account. But for most part, they're saying, nope, you got to put this in. It's good to see. All right. So Ontario, we are rocking, I think, when it comes to countries and interest in Ontario with our resources for making batteries. And this is just awesome to see that we're getting that even more interest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it looks like there's lots of companies that are looking to Canada. I mean, Canada has, strategically, I saw a report that came out today that Canada was the second best country in the world looks like to build battery manufacturing places today, second to China. And that's mostly because of Canada just doesn't have the infrastructure in place yet to fully evolve and develop that. But it looks like we're looking to make those investments. Our governments are going out and advertising that, hey, we're here, we're a safe country to do business, and we have the means and the resources to make this happen. And it's good that a number of companies are agreeing with that, looks like, and looking to move forward to do stuff. So this particular story here is a trade mission in Germany and catering to some of the German car manufacturers to locate battery manufacturing in Canada, and it looks like at least a number of them are taking that very seriously.
Yeah, that's great. Again, with Canada's resources that we have, building it in Canada, close to where the resource is going to be a lower cost for the manufacturer to have it shipped and then processed and then put into those battery packs, and then maybe shipped out to multiple car manufacturers across North America. I think is a great win for us, and hopefully we'll be able to. In this story, it said there's at least 6 manufacturers that are looking to hope we can land a few of them. And of course, as Eric has mentioned, when you start to land a few of them, you start to build up that part of the industry, and then more people look at, oh, the infrastructure's already there, the capital's already there, the people are already there, and it can be basically a self-fulfilling prophecy once you get a few of them up and running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Ontario. It's great to see for Ontario, and it's only meaning that our future, I think, especially with, let's say out of 6 we get 3. That is going to create definitely demand for what Ontario has to offer, and I think will open up even more. I mean, that's 6 battery makers. How many others are there as well that we have not heard about that suddenly will look at this and go, oh, hey, there's another opportunity here. So it's good to see. All right. This is it's funny. I think the 3 of us have discussed for quite a long time about at what point is the tipping point happening for electric vehicles. And we've known each other for, at least 7+ years, and driven sort of the electric vehicles, the plug-in hybrids. We were like the outliers that are kind of doing this and touting to people like, hey, this is really cool. But now, I think more than ever, we are seeing that tipping point is definitely, I think, is starting to happen, because Q3, 9.4% electric vehicles. The majority of it was battery electric vehicles, not the plug-in hybrid. More people are just going straight on for that. And 1 in 5 for BC for the registrations on this. So this is really awesome to see. I think, if we talk Q3 next year, is that 9.4 going to be like 18 plus, 20 plus? Maybe not quite that. Maybe it'll be more like 12 to 15%. We'll have to see. But again, it's just every year, how many years did we kind of listen and put up to like, well, you probably barely make 1% of the actual automotive market. And then it was 2%, and so on and so on. And yeah, we're definitely hitting that point. Of course, if I mention the name Tony Seba, who has done the talk about the transition, I think what he has mentioned in the past in his talks, this is all starting to come through now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
great to see that we're about to hit the double digits. So
yeah.
that's going to be fantastic. Crossing over 10% is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the biggest thing right now is we've hit the tipping point. And I think we're actually a little past the tipping point now. I think the biggest challenge we have today is building enough EVs to satisfy the demand. I think the demand is there. And even when you look at surveys today, people who are, you know, how many people are considering a battery electric vehicle for their next vehicle purchase? And that is a very high percentage.
Yeah.
I think in most studies it's averaging over 50% now, especially with the way the gas prices are and the issues that are happening right now are certainly pushing people in that direction. So right now we're supply constrained, and I think the only thing that's stopping us from hitting double digits today is we're just not building enough of them yet. The infrastructure is not in place to build enough EVs. So as we build more EVs, those numbers will come up, and it's getting there. And I was also going to mention, I think Mark and I are pretty much at the 10-year mark now for knowing each other.
Yeah, we were the real early crazies.
Yeah.
You were the guys who dragged me in kicking and screaming and said, "Get rid of the waste veg oil van and come on."
Yes, indeed. Those were fun days. Yeah, 8 years ago when people, it was such a novelty to see an electric car. People couldn't believe it. Like it was I remember driving over to the local Walmart, and I had 3 people stop in their tracks and just listen to me go by in silence. And then they came right over to me once I parked and said, "How's that car moving without making any noise?"
Yeah.
So those days are long gone, but I'm glad to see this. And look at BC, 1 in 5, 20%. Like they are on fire. Okay, shouldn't say that. They are on an accelerated mission in BC with 20%. That's incredible.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, I was walking my dog in Victoria Park the last nice sunny day we had, and I saw an Ioniq 5 go down the street and pass by a taxi that was a Kia EV6. And you know, it's just I'm walking with my friend and I said, "Look at this. It's like, you know, and if we stay here another 2 minutes, I'm sure a Tesla will go by, and then maybe even a Bolt." And it's like it's commonplace now to see this. My friend just picked up their Bolt about a week ago, and they've messaged me and they're like, "Oh my God, we love EV," is what they've named the Bolt. They're just loving it. And if you also notice too, just in regards to this, like Eric, you're right. I think the tipping points now is gone, because if you look at TV and the commercials that are happening, there's the Audi. You know, you hear the guy, "Yes, it's electric." You know, and then you see the Ioniq advertisements. You see the GM now, their advertisements for the truck, which is really cool. So yeah, it's happening. Like you're not going to have manufacturers doing commercials unless they really viably believe that there's something going to, like, you know, encourage the sales and everything else. And yeah, I think the tipping point, we're past that. So it's good to see.
I'm surprised how many F-150 Lightnings I've seen on the road already too now.
Oh,
quite a few out there.
I drove to one of my gigs in Toronto, and there was a backup. Thankfully, I was able to get off the en route by Cambridge to pass by the backup, and there was 3 Ford F-150s charging at the Ivy chargers, and then an Ioniq 5.
Wow.
So there you go. Yeah, that was a cool sight to see. If I had time, I would have stopped and chatted with them, but yeah. All right. I'll turn it over to you, Eric. This is also showing, I think, again, that transition.
Yeah, so I think, you know, so this is, again, Imperial Oil looking to, you know, a lot of the big oil and gas companies are now trying to, I would say, trying to put on a brave face that they're trying to do things for sustainable energy and technology. I don't know how much of this is greenwashing or how much of it is true, honest effort, but either way, I'll welcome it. More infrastructure is always good. Imperial Oil owns Esso here in Canada, and Esso actually already has a pretty big rollout and presence in Norway with electric vehicle charging. So it's good to see that they're looking to bring some of that over, hopefully in some of the same layouts that they have in, they learned from what they've done in Norway, and we'll bring it here as well too to do that. And it looks like they're partnering with Flow. Flow has been a pretty good partner, generally has pretty reliable charging stations and stuff like that as well too. So hopefully this pans out well, and they put some good infrastructure in place.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. More to the party, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the fact that it's a collaboration, to be honest, I kind of happy to see that aspect of it, because a company like Imperial Oil could turn around and say, well, we'll just do it ourselves, and we'll figure it out. And instead, they actually went to an electric vehicle charging company and approached them about putting that into their infrastructure with their stations and stuff. I think that was a smart move, because it does put the onus a little bit more on Flow, but Flow's proven themselves. They're a company that we see more and more of their charging stations around. So I think that was a smart move for them to do that. And again, it's just, those people going to the gas stations will be seeing those chargers there, and, oh, okay, well, now the oil companies are kind of getting in on this. So what do they know that I don't? It's just, again, this is that cool part of the transition that's happening. Now, talking about transitions and oil companies, this one was a little surprising on this part. So this is now with Petro Canada, who has been around for a few years now with the Trans-Canada Highway, and putting up their stations that way across Canada, which was awesome. But a little bit of a shock.
A little bit of a bump here, yeah. So Petro Canada, as Ian has mentioned, was one of the first that announced the coast-to-coast charging station setup, where they followed the Trans-Canada from coast to coast. It was great. It was an oil company, the first oil company that got involved with chargers in Canada as a large installation. And they've got A&Ws typically with their gas stations. So you've got a little place to get a snack to eat, or a convenience store while you wait to charge. What has happened, though, is that Petro Canada's infrastructure hasn't worked out exactly as they had planned. There have been some issues with breakdowns of different stations for long periods of time. Some of them are not quite reliable. Not sure if it's the actual machinery they've purchased, or if it's some combination of that and how it's programmed. But they have had a number of different issues. If you look at the forums, if you look at PlugShare, there have been a number of different issues with reliability when it comes to this network. And I'm not saying it's easy. When you've got a large network to take care of, you're going to have some issues, but they seem to have more issues than others. And actually, 2 weeks ago, they admitted that they were having some issues, and they were trying to improve the stations out there that are having these issues, get them at a more consistently online rate. So after announcing that, then about a week later, they announced that they were bumping the price up for charging. So a little bit of egg on their face in the first place, and then to come back and say, and for us admitting that we've had issues, we're going to raise the price a little bit on everybody. So I understand prices have to go up in certain instances. We know that there's been supply chain issues here in Canada as well as the rest of the world. We're not going to be able to keep prices low, especially artificially low, if that is the case. But I just think it's a bit of a PR nightmare for Petro Canada to come out, and after just admitting the week before that they're having issues with the charging network and they're trying to make it more reliable, for them to come out with a price increase the next week probably wasn't the best time to do that. If they were have really thought about it, maybe they would have got it straightened out with the reliability, maybe made an announcement that they're now 95% reliability, up from 83, if those are the numbers. I'm just making them up. And then come out with a price increase. But just to have that on the back of after admitting you're having issues probably wasn't the best PR that Petro Canada could do.
Yeah, Yeah, I fully agree with you there, Mark. I agree that timing was not great. They probably should have worked on improving the reliability of their network, or at least rolled out a new program or something like that, and demonstrated it first before passing on a cost increase like this. Because now you've increased costs and you're still asking people to use today somewhat unreliable network. So that's creates a bit of a sting in people's minds. Perhaps they should have taken an approach similar to what Electrify America is doing right now today. Electrify America uses a lot of the same units that Petro Canada is using today, and Electrify America also had huge problems with those units as well. And today, Electrify America is ripping out all of those problematic units today, and they're replacing them with these brand new Signet chargers, which are a huge improvement. They're really wonderful and nice devices. And hopefully Petro Canada can take a page out of that and make some investments to upgrade their networks too, because they are using these are the CCS2 higher end chargers. So these were one of the first charging stations on the market today. They could charge an EV at 500 amps and 1,000 volts DC. So these were some of the first high powered CCS chargers on the market, and they rolled them out very quickly. But being first is not always a good thing, because then you're dealing with all the bugs and the problems that go with it. And Petro Canada is certainly feeling that now, that these have been out on the market now for a few years. So.
Mm-hmm. I do know a couple of times at Petro Canada in Milton that I was trying out a CCS adapter then, and I kind of chalked it up to the CCS adapter being part of the problem, but I'm starting to question if that wasn't also Petro Canada. And then while I was there talking to a few people, they were saying like, it seems like hit and miss a little bit. So, but anyways, I think the part that I'm a little, the 50 cents per minute flat rate, I'm not sure was the best solution for this, but it's what it is. Well, speaking of charging, go to our next slide here, is that last week, Tesla talked about making a charger that was completely standard on open source for all the companies to basically, we can say, hey, take a look at it here, is to use this and make it standard for all companies. The interesting thing about this is the fact that we didn't realize that the kilowatts that they could do was actually somewhere between 500 and 1,000 volts. And so when we look at this aspect of things, that makes charging even that much quicker for the people who say like, oh, well, I can fill up gas in 5 minutes. And now I think with this aspect of it, it's now going to make things a little more interesting. Of course, other companies such as Porsche, we've seen 300, 350 kilowatts. And so this is going to be interesting to see, if other companies might consider and bite onto this or not.
This is my wheelhouse. I work in wire and cable and stuff like that. And I question some of these numbers. The 1,000 volt number, that's certainly plausible. They might have put in the right connectors for the arc potential between the different phase connectors. But the 900 amps, I would love to do the I-squared-R calculations on the conductors that they're using. That's just physics. And right now, there's nothing I can see Tesla's doing that anybody else can't mimic or do right now. As for the charging connectors and stuff like that right now, I would say most manufacturers have already made up their mind. Where I see the biggest potential here is that now you might see third-party charging providers, companies like Signet, BTC Power, ABB. Those are the companies that actually make many of the charging stations that are out there today. They might start now incorporating Tesla connectors into their devices now. Instead of having a CCS in CHAdeMO, now you might see CCS in a Tesla charging cable with them. And that's where I see the biggest potential for this. I don't see any major manufacturer switching to this. But I do see now third-party charging operators now building devices to better cater to Tesla owners. And that's where I see the biggest potential for this.
I agree with that. I think Tesla's kind of late to the party to open up their patents. I think they're probably about maybe 5-6 years too late, because CCS has really taken off in North America here. Although I do agree that the Tesla charger at half the size of a CCS is a much easier one to wield and to plug in. It's got CCS beat on that. The other thing, besides Eric mentioning that some of the charger community may start incorporating these wands into their packages, the other thing I can see is that maybe newer EV companies starting, someone like an Aptera, which again is not all that big at this point, but they have asked if they could use the Tesla plug charger before, so I think they'll probably incorporate it. So we'll get a couple of new manufacturers maybe that will out of the gate decide that they will go with the this type of a plug, especially if it's space confined in their vehicle. Having a plug that's half the size would be a benefit to some, especially like the Aptera. But I don't think we're going to see the major manufacturers switch from what they're doing, especially the ones from Europe who are already used to CCS that is widespread there. So I can see that that will be an uphill battle, but I think some will take advantage of it, just not too many manufacturers.
Yeah, there might be a midway point that we, incorporate different things with the technology. But Eric, and Mark, you had mentioned about like with Europe, of course, Tesla has opened up their supercharging network to more other electric vehicles, and they've talked about that for North America as well, which made me go like, okay, so how's it going to work with the the plug? It's different here, and so that's the part where this gets kind of interesting of how they're going to do this. But I just thought, this has come up. There was kind of a lot of excitement kind of about it, but let's get back to maybe a bit of a reality check and see, how many companies are going to switch now from the CCS, which seems to be a lot more out there and prevalent. And the fact that, Tesla's also put out now their own CCS adapter, and that you can use in the cars. We don't have to get those from South Korea anymore. We can actually order that otherwise, because that was a thing, for a while there that, Tesla's got a CCS adapter, but the only way you could kind of get it was through Tesla South Korea. It was kind of an odd thing on that. So yeah, we'll see with future what happens that way. I think the other quick thing, 900 kilowatts compared to what we have now with 150 kilowatts, which seems to be, I would say 50 to 150 kilowatts seems to be kind of our average to jump even to 450 plus. That's going to be a huge thing, I think, also with people's perceptions about how long it takes to charge on that.
Well, I think all three of us have agreed that the charging times today have gotten to a point where it's quite manageable for anybody. Just stopping, charging, grabbing yourself a drink, and then going to the washroom, coming back and having a 30-minute charge time, 35, somewhere in that area. That is quite sufficient to get you down the road to the next charger. And as you mentioned, Ian, if it was to double at some point and that 35 or 40 minutes changes to 20 or 17 minutes, that's even going to propel this even faster, propel people into EVs. So that's a big plus. Yeah.
It'll be fun. Patrick in Mexico can say to the three kids, you have 5 minutes to go to the washroom and come back.
And we all know it's going to take more than 5 minutes for three kids to go to the washroom.
And that's where the logic of the wife will come through. Is like, not happening. All right. This is a lot of fun because, again, this is in our backyard in Waterloo.
Yes, indeed. So it was announced just recently that 2 Canadian universities, including our own U of W and McMaster out of Hamilton, have been admitted to the GM's EcoCar Challenge, which they participated in the past. You may have remembered that actually we had talked with the EcoCar group and had done some postings of their EcoCar Camaro that they had. So this is the next iteration of that, and of course this gets 15 universities in North America. They give them in this case, a brand new Lyric Cadillac that they're going to be using as the test car. And the challenge for the students from the university is to make the package that's in the Lyric better, to innovate what's already there, and to try different aspects of the car to make the battery pack better, the charging faster, the longevity, the number of miles it gets longer. So all the different things that the university students or teams can think of to make the vehicle better than what it is. And it allows GM, in this case, to get a clean slate of new ideas from a group of people that are in a challenge to make this a better car. So it certainly benefits the university, allows them to use the newest and most update technology available for electric vehicles. And of course, it benefits the company GM for them to receive some ideas that they may have not even thought of, because you've got all these different minds coming at it from different angles, and they may come up with a few things that could get incorporated into the car in the future. Not necessarily this car, but cars in the future. And I'm sure that the Eco Challenge with the Camaro that happened about 5 years ago, I believe it was 4 or 5 years ago, I'm sure a number of ideas came from that as well. And all the 15 universities get graded over a period of time. I believe it's over a couple of years that they have this, and they're all graded at different increments of time to show what university is ahead and who has come up with what ideas. So it's tracked for them as well, so they can see how they sit in the chart of 15 universities.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this idea of this program. It has so many benefits and so many different levels that I like about this. First off, here we're giving, how do you change culture, and how do you change minds of people and stuff like that? Is put this technology in the hands of younger people, and give that to them so that they can see this from the ground up, that what's improving, what stuff like that. And this has also greater benefits overall, with because many of these students are going to go on. They're going to work for companies like General Motors. They're going to work for Tesla. They're going to work for Ford and stuff like that as well too. So they're going to go on and they're going to take their ideas and their concepts and stuff and spread that, to help spread the technology and help improve and keep evolving this going forward. Not only that, but this of course gives a company like General Motors the inside edge in a few things, and also helps promote and get talent into the industry as well too. So now they're going out and helping pick some of the brighter minds here as well too, to bring into their company, and it's a way to recruit bright minds into the company to improve products down in the future as well too. So this works on so many different levels, and it's good that General Motors is now handing them in a sense their latest and greatest technology that they have today, and saying, okay, here's the best we've done today. Now make it better, and I love that as well too. So. It works on so many levels.
Yeah, the Lyric's awesome, but to say Camaro, and if I remember, it was yellow too.
No, it was white.
Was it white? Oh,
it was white.
Yeah. But two little quick stories to this. A friend of mine's sister, who went to U of W, actually worked on the original Volt with GM when she was just at her last years of university, and then ended up working for GM. And she went to some like crazy places to test it for the extreme temperatures, all that type of stuff. But it's funny. So you, Eric and Mark, you both have known each other longer than I've known you. And of course, in 2015, the whole reason I got to know you guys was because we went to Hamtramck. Am I saying that correct? Hamtramck?
Yeah.
To look where the Volt was made, and 2 weeks later I got my Chevy Volt. But to that point, after that trip to Hamtramck, I walked my dog in Victoria Park, and there was a black Chevy Volt there, and I think it was a 2012. And it happened to be that a family was coming back, going to the car. I could see this. So I talked to the gentleman. He says it's not his car, it was his son. Oh, and my son also is a grad of U of W, and the first job he got out of it, U of W, was working at GM with the Chevy Volt. So there's a second thing. And I was just like, oh, this is a sign that I gotta kind of go and get this car. And of course, 2 weeks later, I did. But Eric, as you mentioned, these students, they do go on to other, not just GM, but to so many other car manufacturers, and having this understanding of the electric car aspect, but also to improve it. And it can be so many different things, from safety to maybe an autopilot aspect type of things, full self-driving, and to maybe cool little features that we, like Mark had mentioned, they may not have thought of that would make it really cool. So anyways, and it's great to see University of Waterloo and McMaster, that we've got two universities here in Ontario. Again, going back to what Ontario is doing with battery, the interest in batteries and our minerals and resources and everything. This is becoming a powerhouse. We are a province that's really showing that electric is definitely got a lot of potential in the future here. So it's very cool. All right, our last slide of the night. And no, this is not a lithium mine. For those of you who think it is not.
Yeah, it's a mining resource of some type, but basically, yeah. So basically, the federal government is seeing also that how critical some of these minerals are that are being used in batteries and electric vehicle manufacturing. And they're now seeing this as, now they have to go, they're looking at strategically putting restrictions on foreign-owned investments so that, Canadians and Canada help control some of these resources as well, too. It's great that Canada has all these resources. It's great that we're getting the know-how and the technical aspects. And now we're getting a lot of interest in the investments in building these battery factories. But I guess the one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to have these foreign companies come in, harvest everything, and then just leave. And we want companies to come in that have a vested interest in Canada and now and to the long-term future. So I think this is an important piece of the puzzle as well too, to make sure that Canadians are protected long-term, and that these are done right and they're done in the best interests of our long-term interests. So.
Yeah, that's always a good idea. You have seen other nations in the past have been robbed of a resource, basically, where it's just mined, it's put on a ship, and it's left. We need the ability to make that into basically a product where we can sell that product and open up other markets, and of course attract other groups to our borders as well with the product that we've started. So building an infrastructure of battery packs could draw us in a new manufacturing plant for electric vehicles, just because it gets easier to ship it smaller distances. So that's exactly the road we should be on. I completely agree.
Mm-hmm. I'm really happy to see that the federal government is getting involved with this aspect, and protecting what we have, being on the up and up with it, and there's nothing wrong with foreign investment and to look and to develop, but we need to be very cautious and protective of that as well, because we are a very rich country with our resources. And if you think about even water, something as simple as our fresh water, I think we do don't think of it in a way that we take it, just we got fresh water. But compared to so many other countries, we still need to protect that and be very careful of that resource as well. So this is something similar that I think is good for the hey, bit of a gatekeeper on all this stuff to have.
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely. Well, with that,
All right.
we want to thank everyone that's watched this tonight. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please give us a thumbs up on the video. That helps us out. Press that subscribe button, and when you do so, you'll be notified. You'll be one of the first that are notified when we put up a new video. So we would appreciate if you would do that. It also helps us out in our exposure to new eyes for the podcast. So thanks so much for watching. Any shout outs for the evening, gentlemen? How about Ian first?
Nothing really comes to my mind. I didn't really think about that, actually. You know what? Nothing really comes to mind except maybe the fact that the Leafs have finally won a few games after that horrible road trip out west.
Quite a touching ceremony with Boreas Salming last night.
Okay, you know what? I will. Yeah, there's a shout out I will give. I didn't see the original. I was out actually that night, and then I did see kind of the highlights in the replay. But Borges Salming was awesome to see him. And if those of you who don't know, amazing hockey player who's dealing with ALS, and definitely a disease that is awful on that. But you know what? It was touching and heartwarming to see the ceremony for him, because man, what an amazing hockey player. This is a guy who took a skate across the face, right? And he's just amazing, so there you go. That's a good shout out, I think.
Very good. Eric?
I guess the only shout out I have is if I mentioned to a few people, my classmates, that I'm doing some of these podcasts as well too. So if they're brave enough to watch the video this long and see me on here, then thank you. I appreciate it. That's the only real shout out I have tonight. So
very good. Well, we thank again everyone for watching, whatever time you're watching, and tune in with us next month when we'll do another round of electrifying news. And with that, we will bid everyone a good night, good morning, or good evening, whenever you're watching. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.